After 3 years of struggle, they've finally come through with their album Kings of the Wild Frontier at number 3 in the chart this week. Our first studio guest tonight, Adam and the Ants.
Adam and the Ants.
No show seems to be complete without a band called Adam and the Ants.
Thousands upon thousands of votes were for our winner, Adam of Adam and the Ants.
I tell you,
Here are a group who have the honour of having 3 hit records in the charts at one time. What more can I say than Adam and the Ants?
Adam and the Ants.
Adam and the Ants.
They are red hot. Adam and the Ants are number 1 in England. They are generating tremendous shockwaves here in New York, soon to be seen all across America.
Welcome to the Skyaaz podcast. I'm very excited. I'm joined by Marco from Adam and the Ants and countless other acts. Hi, Marco.
Hello.
So let's kick it off. Let's talk about the early days of the punk scene.
All right.
So I think I saw a picture of you playing, and it looked like, is it Sid on drums?
Sid Vicious. Yeah, I was in a band with Sid Vicious.
What was that like?
Well, it didn't last for very long, and Susie and Steve. I think Susie and Steve were like 19. I was 17. Sid was probably 19 as well. So it's like we needed a drummer. We had this gig supporting the Pistols in like 3 days or something. So we needed a drummer, and Sid said, "Well, I'll do it." And looking back on it, you know, history has told us like Sid Vicious is probably not the sort of a dream member to add to your lineup. Probably not the sort of person you want in your organisation. But what do we know? It went well. He was actually a good drummer.
Yeah, because they said he didn't play the bass particularly well.
No, he couldn't play. I don't think we could play bass at the time. I can't remember. Yeah, I think he actually could play a bit of bass, but you know, in a very kind of Johnny Ramone way. Have you ever seen that film Sid and Nancy?
Unfortunately, I have.
Yeah. Do you know there's a bit where he's sitting in New York and he's playing a bass. He's just sitting there going like that. He's taking loads of speed, and that whole film was quite surreal. But that's the first time I'd ever seen people I know portrayed in a film played by other people. It's sort of weird. I mean, it's sort of impossible. There can't be the people. There's no way. It's just not possible to sort of like. If you knew them, you'd keep just sort of saying it's just nothing like them. Yeah. But the one bit that was really, really surreal and sent shivers down my spine is when he's sitting in the chair and he's taking loads of speed and he's playing bass. So God, that's exactly what he used to do. Exactly.
Crazy. So, I mean, did you know Stuart back then? Did you know Adam?
No, I didn't know Adam.
So you didn't know him during that early sort of. So you would have been
I'd seen him. He was around. I'd never met him.
There's so much talk about the early punk scene and stuff. You know, I think there were very few people that were actually there. What were your memories of like early late 70s punk when you were involved? Has it sort of been portrayed now?
Depends which bit, which year, which month. I mean, it changed monthly, you know. I mean, the big year, I think, well, for me, was 76. And that's when that's when I saw the Pistols. I think they started in 75. But that's when I actually saw the Pistols. I went down to the El Paradiso. It was a strip club in Soho.
Right.
I don't really know what I was expecting. I was 17. I didn't go to a lot of strip clubs in Soho. So, I mean, it was the dodgiest place you could ever imagine. I mean, it was owned by these Maltese gangsters. God. And Malcolm got the premises off them cheap. In the end, they were sort of all right, but I wouldn't like to cross them. What was I going to say? The El Paradiso, and the big sign with El Paradiso written. It was like a hot pink Formica sign with El Paradiso written in white. And you just went in, and it was a shop. I don't know what I was expecting. I don't know what I was expecting, but it was just basically a shop. and they were at one end of the room, no stage. I mean, it was like like in the Elephant Man, where he goes to see the Elephant Man in the cellar.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like that. It was like the kind of fucking hell. I've stepped into hell.
I spoke with Nick Egan, who was
Oh right, Nick. Yeah, I know Nick.
yeah, he was telling me about some of the early Sex Pistols gigs. He said there were 50 people there.
Yeah. Oh, I don't think there were 50 people there. Besides,
I picked up a bootleg yesterday at a record fair, and I think it's called. Hang on, let me see if I can find it. Let me see if I can find it. You see that? I swear I was there.
I swear I was there. I swear I was there.
I swear I was there, as that record says. Yeah, I mean,
Right.
there's
Where
been a
did you
real.
stop-
I mean,
where did you
I
stop
collect.
it?
I collect punk vinyl and I like it, but I'm aware that there's this whole myth about what it was. And I met John actually a couple of months ago, and I really liked him. What do you think of John Lydon?
John Lydon. I was really liked him. I always really liked him. Yeah, I mean, he obviously he's got his funny moments. I haven't seen him for a long time, but I always liked him, and I thought there's, that Steve Jones documentary, dramatisation they did.
The Disney.
They're really unfair to John in that. He wasn't like that. He could be like that, but that person they got as John was just vile. John isn't vile. Can be.
Yeah.
Can
Well,
be.
John's
What-
doing
what?
this speaking tour thing, and I
Yeah.
went and saw him, met him, and I basically didn't really want anything signed. I just wanted to meet him, and I sat down with him. And what struck me, I've met lots of musicians. What struck me is he was interested. He actually wanted to talk to you, and it was really, really refreshing to see that. I'd love to interview him at some point, but he's a very busy boy, and I think Pillar actually on the road again next year as well, which is good.
Right.
So look, let's talk about the first Adam album. I think you were on tracks 18 and 19, Dirk Wears White Socks.
No, I'm not on any of it.
So then that must mean that the first album that you were on was Kings of the Wild Frontier, 1980.
Yeah, the first thing we did was a track called Car Trouble.
Right.
That was the first thing that me and Adam actually worked on. And it was to fulfill. He had I didn't, to be honest, it's not that I've forgotten. It's that I didn't really quite understand. I obviously never went through his contractual obligations to another record label. So,
Did it do it? Was it Do It?
Do it, yeah.
Yeah.
Fulfill the contract was to release another single. So he said, I don't want to do anything new. I want to save that up, and let's just redo something off Dirk. And I said, okay. And he said, what do you want to do? And I said, I don't know really. I don't like all of it. Well, there are some great things on it. And he said, what about Car Trouble? And I said, all right. And Car Trouble comes in two parts. I don't know why. There's Car Trouble Part 1 and there's Car Trouble Part 2. And they sort of joined together. Well, so let's just do Part 2. So we did it. We did thinking it was a bit like Rock and Roll Part 2.
Yeah.
So it came out, and it wasn't called Car Trouble Part 2, much to my disappointment. It was just called Car Trouble.
It's actually, yeah, he still performs that live.
Yeah, I'm sure it does.
Yeah. Okay, so we had Kings of the Wild Frontier. So the three big hits from that were Dog Eat Dog, Amp Music, and Kings of the Wild Frontier. I mean, it clearly wasn't overnight success, but how did it make you feel when suddenly you had the success, having been, in the sort of the earlier punk stuff?
It took some getting used to, but it was gradual, kind of, you're already living a kind of isolated life because we're on the road so much. We did like 2 tours of England before anything broke through. So you're just always with the band, and you're always kind of in a bus or in a hotel, and you live like, you know, a life that's not like with anybody else. You don't really walk down the street or anything like that. And we weren't famous. We had a fairly good following, but and then it just got into, you couldn't go anywhere, and you know.
Yeah. So I mean, for really, in the space of 3 years, so Dirt came out in 79, Kings of the Wild Frontier came out in 80, and then obviously Prince Charming in 81. I mean, that it just exploded, didn't it? I mean, Stand and Deliver, Prince Charming, it was nuts. I remember I was at school, and after Top of the Pops, everyone went to the playground and was like, did you see the TV last night? Did you see? And it was everywhere.
I did an interview once with some journalist, and he was trying to pin me down. He said, "Well, why did you want to do this? What's the sort of, you know, what's your driving force?" And I didn't really know, and I had to think about it. And you can't, but he did prod and pry, and sort of got it out of me. And what it was for me, it was like, I wanted exactly that reaction. I wanted, because it was always like, you know, Friday morning, did you see Top of the Pops? And I wanted the same reaction from people that, you know, that I had to Roxy or Bowie or whoever, you know. Just come in the next day and there'd be an argument about, I saw see that band Roxy, they're brilliant, they were brilliant. No, they were shit, and that sort of thing, you know, just before class started, because there was always that conversation before you went into class, and it was always about what was on Top of the Pops. And I wanted that. I wanted exactly that reaction.
What was weird as well, and this is to just come to me now, actually. So I can remember, you know, if we're thinking the sort of early 80s, you had bands like the Specials and stuff. You would have like the hard lads at school would be into it, and the other kids weren't. With Adam and the Ants, as far as I can remember, it was universally liked. Everyone liked it. The young, the girls liked it, the lads liked it, everyone liked it. It was just incredible. And one of the things that I think is really important is the music has stood the test of time. If you put on, you know, any of those singles now, they are still, you know, compared to music now, I'm not being funny, but the music now, it's utter shit.
Yeah.
You know.
I mean, my theory, one of the reasons is that we never used any synths. And people, I used to do interviews and say, well, you don't use any synths or like everybody else is doing, so you must hate synth pop. You don't hate synth pop. I don't hate electronic music. I mean, Kraftwerk is one of my absolute favourite bands. Yeah. And just because we don't do it doesn't mean we hate it.
Yeah.
And the reason we didn't use synthesizers, one, we couldn't play keyboards. Two, everybody else was doing it, and everyone else was doing better than we ever could. So we thought, well, we're not going to do that.
Yeah.
Not because we didn't like it. And I think, but a synth sounds date really quickly.
Yeah, totally. I mean, if you listen to, I'm a big fan of electronic music. I used to be a DJ.
Funky breath. Funky breath. Funky breath. Funky go.
And when I used to listen to it, I used to think this is the future, but it's not. It's aged terribly. Particularly those early electronic stuff, you know, like Gary Newman cars and stuff. It's aged really badly, and I don't think the Ant stuff has.
There's some things that really stand up like as being absolutely like TVOD.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's absolutely brilliant. Warm Leverett.
Yeah. All
that really early stuff. It just sounds brilliant. You know, Suicide just sounds brilliant.
Yeah. Yeah, I love Yellow as well. I mean, Yellow are a big fan of mine, a fave of mine.
Yeah.
Of after obviously Prince Charming, Adam then split the Ants and then went solo, didn't he? And you continued. And I actually met Caroline Munro, and she was telling me about Goody Two Shoes. She was the girl.
So tell me about filming Goody Two Shoes.
Oh, we had such a good time in long hours, obviously, and we shot out in Virginia Water, I think, at this wonderful old building. But it was amazing, and he knew exactly what he wanted. He'd done all the storyboards.
He did that. He drew out storyboards of everything.
Storyboards, so he knew exactly what he wanted. But we had Mike Mansfield was the director, and I just think it's a really fun.
Because you start off as the secretary.
Yes, I do. Very
and
prim and
then
proper.
and then it's got the guy looking through the keyhole.
Yes, Graham Stark.
That's
and
right.
Dandy Nichols.
Dandy Nichols.
Yes.
And then it's got the sexy pose at the end.
Well, I don't know about that, but we do our best. But yes, and then she changes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And if you watch them, they're like little mini plays, aren't they?
Yeah.
In fact, when he was on Top of the Pops, I think he actually did like a thing. And how did you feel having to, play along in the videos? Did you enjoy it? Because it was obviously something you hadn't done before.
I hated it.
You?
It was really boring. Videos were really boring. That's why it's like never, ever, ever wanted to be an actor. I mean, it's just sort of, it was like kind of just hanging around and don't touch your face because you've got makeup on and sitting in chairs. No, it's just, and I thought the videos were important, and then it's like, then I had to sign checks for these things, and it's like kind of, one video which took one day to do cost more than our entire album, and you think, fuck me.
This is for the solo stuff or the Adam and the Ants as well. All of it.
All of it's so expensive making any sort of films, anything to do with TV or videos, because there's so many people involved.
Yeah.
I mean, when you're making an album, I mean, it's even cheaper now. I mean, you'd have to hire a studio, and how many people are really involved? I mean, like 4 or 5 people in the band, engineer, producer, maybe there's 10 people involved. It's that, involved in the whole album.
Mm-hmm.
But with video, it's just 30, 40 people,
So obviously Adam's solo career continued, didn't he? He had Wonderful, and then I guess he just decided to go off and do acting, didn't he? I think
he decided before that to go off and do acting, actually.
Yeah.
I don't know what.
And then, I mean, what's your relationship with Adam now? I mean, do you still speak?
Non-existent.
It's what?
Non-existent.
Non-existent. Oh, sad.
Yeah, it is.
Because obviously, when he had his problems in the past, I mean, you were one of the people that was, helping him, weren't you? You were one of his friends, but
many people helping him. He didn't really have any friends. Jordan, Danny, me, his wife, but his wife sort of couldn't deal with it anymore. I mean, she had a kid to bring up. I think I've never suffered from that sort of mental. I mean, I just get normal depression, which is not clinical depression. I get normal depression like everybody does, like you're browned off, basically. I'm really fed up. But this is something else, and I really wouldn't wish it on anyone. And it just draws everybody, it just and you have to kind of, especially when he's manic like he was, because he was severely manic.
Yeah.
Someone's completely out of control and totally out of character.
Yeah.
Yeah, it took a strain. It was a big strain, big strain.
Yeah.
Because it was like, first of all, it was like kind of, I can't remember. I think we released I think it was before we released the Wonderful album. My goal in helping him was really because we had this album coming out. But after that, after it's like, no, it's too late for that. The album doesn't even matter anymore because he's so far gone.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's interesting that he's managed to come back and do some live work. I mean, I saw he did a gig in, I saw him perform a few years ago in Brighton, and it was kind of weird because he came out and said, "I'm the true punker," then left at the end without any encore or anything. And then I saw him a couple of years ago, I think, in Guildford, and he did a very good live performance, you know, and everyone enjoyed it. But yeah, it's a shame that you're not still talking, but you know, that's what happens when you.
It's a shame. I mean, I don't think I'd want to go back on the road. I mean, it's
I saw
not.
a clip of you on stage with there was a tribute ants, and they did they manage to get you? They got you up on the stage, didn't they?
Yeah, it was like a kind of sort of convention evening, and
Right.
I really shouldn't go to those things really because I get so fucking nervous. I don't know why, but because everyone's really, really nice and they love you. So you
Yeah.
walk into a room full of people who love you, hundreds of people who love you, and I'm fucking shitting myself. Um, and then you start drinking because you're so nervous, and then you drink too much, and then next thing I know, I'm up on stage. But what the fuck? Well, I mean, I don't know. It is hard to deal with if you're a naturally shy person, which I am desperately shy. Sometimes in some.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
I never understood how. I mean, Adam was very good at it, and he is, in fact, a desperately shy person. But you kind of go into professional mode, which I've never learned.
right. What you mentioned about Malcolm? What was Malcolm like as a person? Was he fun?
Yeah, he was fun.
Because I met him. He was doing a talk show in London. I took the day off work and I went and met him. And I had it was a New York program for seditionaries. And he sort of got out the car and went in, and I called him over, and he came over and he picked it up and he looked at it and he goes, "Where did you get this?" And I got it on eBay. And it was like the early days of eBay. And I also had this Malcolm McLaren house record, and I passed it to him, and he passed it back to me. He goes, "I'm not signing that." And I said, "It's got your name on it." And he said, I'll never forget this. He said, "Just because it's got my name on it doesn't mean I know what it is."
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
And
I know what you mean.
one of the press photographers took a picture of us. And it's a fantastic memory for me meeting him. And you know, and I think he was very responsible for, well, obviously he nicked the old band to form Bow Wow Wow, but he did give Adam the idea to do the two drummers, and you know, he was like the
He
idea.
didn't give Adam. He didn't give Adam the idea to have the two drummers. Adam just thought of that on his own. It was like the very first day I met him.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, he was just been thrown out of the ants the day before, literally the day before, and so he was sort of like confused about, you know, what am I going to do? You know, but he had all these ideas, but even he didn't know if they were very good. And it was just sort of like, and he just basically said, "Well, one thing I do know is I think we should have two drummers." And I thought, oh God, I know.
Well, they did that in the 70s, didn't they? And glam rock did a lot of.
That's why we did it.
Yeah.
That's why we did it.
And it is a great sound. It is a great sound.
People who've got two drummers are Glitter Band, Wizard, Shawati Waddy.
Yeah.
Who else got two drummers? And the Grateful Dead. So it's like you're in good company.
Yeah.
About the Grateful Dead, I don't know why they've got two drummers. But
Okay.
then again, I don't know why they've got a position.
So we've covered Adam, but now we're going to talk about this.
All right, okay.
So this came today. I ordered this.
I had just been through the garage looking for one of those.
I got it. I've been playing it in the car. I had to pop out earlier, and I'll tell you what. When I was listening to it, it had I mean, it's unmistakably your guitar work, but it had sort of a bit T-Rex
Yeah.
and a bit Roxy. Do you
Yeah,
know
well,
what I
it's
mean?
supposed to. It was supposed to be.
And
I worked very hard trying to get it to sound like T-Rex and Roxy.
well, then you did a good job. You did a good job. So are you still, this still an ongoing project or?
No, it's not an ongoing project. It got too expensive, and I basically spent all my money on it. It was completely my fault. One, for having an 80s attitude, which is throw enough money at it and it will be, it'll be successful, which is not the way to go. And it's like, I just thought, fuck this, I just want to do things like we used to do it, like go into a studio and book a band and you play it and overdub it and you take ages. And of course, that's not how to do things anymore. You know, I mean, back then, that was 10 years ago. I mean, we were selling some records, we did sell some, but nowhere near. I had to put it was all my money, and they just came to a point where I was like, I can't afford this anymore.
Yeah.
You know, it's not paying its way. And, and now I do understand why people don't make new records. I mean, Lou Reed stopped making new records. Adam doesn't want to do any new recording. I mean, that to me is like kind of, it's not a project I'd want to be involved with, because I don't want to just go on stage and play all the hits.
Mm.
I don't want to do that, but all that just feels embarrassing to me. But if I loved being on stage, then I'd probably just do it for the laugh. I mean, I don't know what sort of, I've never understood how people make money on the road. I mean, I know we didn't, Adam and the Ants didn't, but then we never tried to make money on the road. We never sat down and thought this is going to, when we did our tours, our aim was to break even. So if we broke even, that's fine, it hasn't cost anything. And we promoted the album because we were making so much money off the recordings and the publishing. We didn't really need to make money on the road. We never got into that the bigger echelon above us in America would be kind of arenas. Mm-hmm. And we sort of made a few inroads into, we did a few arenas in America. We did arenas in Australia and things like that. But we never got into that kind of, we were sort of bottom of the first division in American terms. And you need to be, at least in the middle of the first division to be really making, kind of fuck off, real kind of Aerosmith money.
Mm-hmm. Tell me, what was it like the first time you heard your music on the radio? Can you remember it?
Yeah. It was a John Peel session I did with a band called The Models.
Okay.
And, I think we found out when it was going to be on, which was really hard. To find out anything out. I had to check phoning the BBC and calling our agent and stuff like that. Yeah, and it's going to be on, so we just, you had to listen to the whole show just to get your 4 songs or 2 songs, however many it was. It's surreal, really. It's surreal. Because it never feels like how good you think it's going to feel. Really? It becomes a bit matter of fact. It's not boring. Of course, it's great. You want to hear your music on the radio, but then after a while, it's because that's where your music is supposed to be. Mm-hmm. It's supposed to be on the radio, and this is the natural way of things. Yeah. So it's not unusual anymore. I remember getting the first Model single. It's like this is my first ever recorded thing, and it's on a vinyl 7-inch. And I growing up, I worshipped vinyl 7 inches. I mean, I love albums as well, but I think the big influence, particularly for me, with Adam and the Ants, was this kind of 1972 British eccentric. They were pop, but it was really weird pop, and it was Roxy and Bowie and Sparks. Yeah, Sailor. It was pop and it was accessible, but it was really odd. It was coming at it from a different angle. I love that. Was very much an influence on what we were doing, Adam and the Ants. I mean, I still think kind of I'm sort of proudest of our singles because they're sort of like what they were meant to be, you know, like what I'd always wanted to do. And because Adam and the Ants were basically the band I'd always dreamed about being in. They're the band I imagined I would be in. We had 2 drummers. It was glam rock, spaghetti westerns, with a bit of weird other shit thrown in, and we had 2 drummers, and we had a look. I didn't know at that time. You know, when I was sitting in my maths lessons dreaming about being in a band, I didn't imagine that we'd be pirates. But then again, I didn't have it all figured out.
Yeah.
I had the music. I had some of the musical ideas already figured out. You know, I was 15. Obviously, punk hadn't yet happened, so I didn't. But it's basically the band I imagined I would be in, or basically the band I wanted to be in, and it happened. And I was always sort of like, sometimes on stage, you really think, where am I? Is this really happening, or am I still back in the classroom?
What was it like being on Top of the Pops? Because I've heard lots of people say it's really disappointing because it's so small.
Yeah, it's so small. The actual physical thing of doing it is a bit disappointing. It's not much happens, but I mean, but it's a milestone in your life. It's a complete milestone in your life. And that's like, you know, we did Dog on Top of the Pops. That was kind of, it wasn't really make or break, but you know, this is it. This is what you've always wanted. And this is Top of the Pops. And this, but so many people think, you know, when you get on Top of the Pops, oh, you've made it. No, you haven't. You haven't. You've got your foot in the door. That's it.
Yeah.
And then you sort of realise, like, this will never end. You know, this will never end, which is like, you always think there should be some sort of end point. Like, when we do this, that'll be it, and then I can do something else. But, but you just keep going and keep going and keep going. Because there's nothing else to do, really. I mean, what else are you going to do?
Right, hold it right there. Before we get into this, I must just mention 99.9% of people who look at my content on YouTube don't subscribe. I've got some great stuff coming up. I've got some really interesting stories. We'll be covering music, of course, but do the right thing. Subscribe and follow what I'm doing. Anyway, let's crack on.
So I can see behind you, you've got quite a collection of guitars. Do you want to talk us through it?
Yeah, this isn't all of them. This is actually my original Adam and the Ants guitar, the only one I had when I did Kings of the Wild Frontier. That's why it's got skull and crossbones all over it.
So if we watch any of those early clips, that's the guitar that... Yeah, I recognise it. I recognise the skull and crossbones.
Yeah. I've got lots of others like this one, but this is the original one that I bought in Birmingham.
You bought where?
I haven't really been on stage since I bought this one, but I would use this one on stage. Epiphone Century. So I'm going to get another one. I don't know why I need 2, but a Strat.
Nice.
Old Strat. Guild 12-string. Gretsch 12-string electric. Baritone guitar. This is interesting. This sort of takes you sort of. What I didn't know, if you learn to play this, you can play banjo and mandolin. It's all the same tuning.
That looks like a sort of Kiss guitar.
What?
It's like Kiss.
Well, it's supposed to be. It's a little flying V.
All right.
I thought it was funny, like it's kind of mad, this sort of mad heavy metal shape in in a very small version of it. It's only got 4 strings.
So you've obviously worked with lots of other artists, as I mentioned,
Yeah.
Sinead O'Connor, Susie, Spear of Destiny.
Yeah.
I mean, are you currently working with other artists now, or what's your
No, I'm not
current...
doing anything. I'm kind of really since COVID. I mean, the music business hasn't really restarted. It certainly hasn't restarted for me, and I don't know. I'm really trying to. You know, I'm now 65. Should I be retiring? I don't know. Well, probably not. Actually, I don't see any reason to stop. Sort of. Yeah, I'd like to. I mean, I'm sure I will do something. Something will crop up. I mean, I've been asked to write a book, which I've actually made a start on. It's, you know, basically, I'm only doing it because everybody else I know has done one. So
What would the book be? Would it be your entire career?
No, it's not. It's not my entire life. I didn't get into. I've read lots of books by my friends, Bobby Gillespie and Gary Kemp and Sinead. Sorry, I'm name dropping on it. And there's always things about their childhood, but it's like I don't know. I always get bored with their childhoods, really, and
yeah, you kind of just want it to start from when you know them, don't you?
Yeah. So mine starts in 1972 with seeing Starman on Top of the Pops,
Right.
which seems to be a pivotal moment for a lot of people from my generation. In fact, Dylan Jones wrote an entire book just about that one appearance.
Really?
Ziggy played guitar. It's really good. I mean, he says that he remembers it in colour for years and years, his entire life. He thought he'd seen it in colour, but of course then he realised, like 30 years later, they never had a colour television, and I don't think they existed at the time. Colour television, I'm not sure. Don't know when did they come up.
Well, the thing is, but Bowie was so pivotal. I mean, even Crass got their name from. I think he said the kids were Crass.
Yeah.
And this is something I wanted to ask you. So I've done a lot of stuff about Crass on the channel, and if we think about Ant Rap, there's a line in Ant Rap where Adam says, "So tired of those anarchists looking at me, don't need their credibility. Defy, they say, destroy, condemn, as long as you don't destroy them." Now, I think that is based on, there was a Crass track called You're Already Dead, and they used to have their essays in there, and there's a whole bit in there about pirate pop stars and all this stuff. And I reckon, correct me if I'm wrong, I think that was Adam's response to them saying...
It was a response. It wasn't a response to that particular track because I've never heard it. In fact, to be honest, I've never heard anything by Crass. I remember that when we were sort of coming up, I don't think we'd done Kings yet, but our first tour, which was called Ant's Invasion Tour, I think, or Frontier Tour. It was either called the Frontier Tour or Ant's Invasion, I can't remember. And we used to do in-store signings, and we were. I mean, it was all. I mean, most of the sort of. It seemed to me that most of the fan base, the provincial fan base, of which I had, because I was kind of like, you know, London hipster. I had no idea that this punk thing was still going on. People were still punks, but obviously these kids like 15, 16, 14, 15, 16. And it was usually like they were usually decked out, completely covered in Crass badges or Ants badges or Anti-Nowhere League. I remember really big as well. It would seem to be those three acts, us and Anti and Crass, would seem to be had this, you know, the biggest following. And they're the same thing. And we all had exactly the same thing. And they crossed over. A lot of Crass fans liked us. A lot of Ants fans liked Crass. And they followed. They went to every gig. You know, all these kids would go. You know, they would go on the whole tour. And it was a complete social thing, like just hitchhiking to every gig, which was sort of, I thought, actually quite sweet. So what was I saying about Crass? But to this day, I've never heard a Crass track.
But was that
I mean,
line aimed at Crass, do you think, or
it was aimed at the general kind of,
the general anarcho scene that was very negative?
yeah, not particularly Crass. I don't think he knew anything about that song as Pirate Pop Stars. I'm sure I would have heard about it. I'm sure he would have said, "Yeah, they're fucking Crass. They fucking take the piss," one of them. But he never said anything about it. So I doubt it.
There is a tendency. I think I did an interview with Dunstan from Chumbawamba. He didn't tell me this, but I've seen somewhere else where they would get people coming to their house and they'd say, "Oh, you've got this coffee. Do you want to have that?" And and it starts getting to the point of like, okay, and I think I can understand.
Completely ridiculous. Completely ridiculous. I mean, I about 10 years ago, I don't know why, I was just reading an article, or maybe I was just looking at things online. I've always been interested in Crass. I always wondered what the fuck they were, what they sounded like. But I'd never so interested that I would actually want to listen to it. And one of them was doing a solo tour. Is it Steve Ignorant?
Steve Ignorant, yeah.
Yeah, he was doing a solo tour, just him and his guitar. And there was a whole tirade of people. It was like, he has the nerve to charge people to come and see him play. Well, how's he supposed to? And it's like you're kind of begrudging this bloke a bed for the night. Where do you want him to sleep? In the street?
Yeah.
You're begrudging him food, petrol, transport, and a living.
Yeah.
I don't know Steve Ignorant, but I don't think he's heading for the. I don't think he's overly ambitious and wants to be in the Taylor Swift arena. I don't think that's what he's trying to do. But
at the end of the day,
entitled to be paid, he's entitled to eat and sleep in a bed.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest with you, I've interviewed Steve, and obviously Crass ended in 1984. He's the lead singer. That's what he does. There's probably nothing else he can do.
Yeah, no.
And so he's making a living, and he's making people happy. People don't have to go and see him if they don't want to.
No.
But yeah,
well, I'm sure he's not charging kind of Elton John, Paul McCartney, and Taylor Swift prices, is he?
No, he's not. But
I don't think if he does a solo tour, I don't think he's going to be retiring on the process of this, retiring to the south of France.
No. So you touched earlier on the music business, the music industry, and people are probably struggling to make money. I mean, I think a lot of that is the download thing. I mean, I think I think music as a commodity, if we forget vinyl, because vinyl's obviously come back, but as a commodity, it's seen as a disposable thing, which I hate. I don't know if you see behind me. I love vinyl, and I love the physical act of owning a record, because that's mine. And I think when you have just digital, it's disposable.
Doesn't mean the same.
No, and it doesn't sound as good either.
And the same work went into making that kind of that download as it did to make a record. But I mean, when download started, I mean, it's like you can never overestimate the kind of music fans' desire to get something for nothing. And there was a lot of people who really were either stupid or they were lying. They were saying, "Well, we're sticking it to the man. We're downloading free music, and music should be free." What the fuck are you doing? Why should music be free? How can people afford to make it? And we're sticking it to the man, and we're going to destroy the music industry. What you've done is destroyed the artist, basically. People just can't. There's just no way you can do it. There's no way you can do it. I can't afford to put a band together. Well, I could. I suppose I wanted to, but I'm lucky. But most people, I don't know what people would do to start out now. I don't know how they'd do it.
Well, I think luck is a huge part.
Oh yeah.
I think a lot of it is. I mean, I think I look at the music industry now, and I've had this conversation with my friend. If you think of the history of popular music from, say, the 60s to now, there's always a definitive sound of a certain era. So if we think about the 70s, we've got disco in the early 70s, then you've got punk, then you've got kind of like the jam and the ska type stuff from the early 80s. Then you've got, you know, obviously the Ants in the early 80s, then you've got the New Romantics and all this kind of stuff. And then it gets to sort of 1990s and it ends after Oasis. And I can't think of if you think of like the 2000s onwards, what is the sound of that time? There isn't one.
No, there isn't one. No,
There's no, you know, it's all, you know, I'm not going to say I'm showing my age as a middle-aged man, but if I listen to Radio 1, I will just want to end myself because it's just so dire.
Yeah. Yeah.
It really is.
I agree, but I mean, it's like, you know, you can't go back in time and it'll never be what it was, and you know, there's no point in yearning for it. I don't yearn for it. Yeah. I mean, I do miss the days when the album was it was basically the whole point of your entire life. This is what you're alive for, to make records, and then hopefully to sell them. You know, this act of creation of making a record, a track, that was the point of your entire life. And now it sort of isn't, you know, it's obviously the album, the single, the actual creative process is sort of secondary, and it just seems to be fucking going on the road playing your old hits, which is okay for that.
Well, I mean, the whole thing, you know, I can remember Saturday mornings going to the record store. I had no idea what was out. And I would go then, I'd go through the racks, and it was exciting to find something because now you just go on the internet and you can find out what's been released, download it if you want it. It's just so different. It's just so, and I think kids nowadays really missed out on that.
That's a real old man's phrase, isn't it? Kids now.
I know, but I can't help it. I do think, you know, and I think some of them are actually discovering vinyl, you know, and buying vinyl, which is great. But yeah, I'm just sorry. I'm just turning into an old man.
No, I'm not a vinyl junkie. I mean, I you know, I have vinyl and I have a record player, but it's not how I listen to music. I listen to music on my phone or on. I mean, I still sort of. But I've got all my favourite stuff on my phone, so I just listen to it in the car. But you know, everyone's saying vinyl. I mean, there was like 10 years ago, someone was saying, like, kind of came in and said, "Oh, do you know vinyl's back in it? It's now done 1 million. Vinyl has done 1 million. There's been 1 million vinyl sales worldwide this year." Well, we used to do 1 million sales, like, you know, in a month. Bands used to do that on one release.
Yeah.
So it's. I remember meeting Slade once in the early days. I was a big Slade fan. And they said, "Oh, Noddy said, you're doing really, really well." And I said, "Yeah." He said, "Yeah, we've done 100,000 albums this week." He goes, "Oh, bloody hell, we used to do 100,000 albums a day." You know, so it was...
I haven't heard the Christmas song this year.
What's that?
You know, you know, Wish It Could Be Christmas Every Day. I haven't heard it.
No, you don't hear it very often now.
No, I hear E17 more.
Yeah. Or Mariah Carey.
Oh, God. Yeah, right. We've got the quick fire round here, Marco. Okay. You can pass any questions that you don't want to do.
All right.
But they're fairly easy. So, first, favourite film?
Blade Runner. I've got two.
Okay.
Blade Runner or 2001: A Space Odyssey.
Okay. Blade Runner is fantastic.
Yeah.
But what did you think of the remake?
I thought it was okay.
Bit long. Bit long.
It looked great. It didn't grab me, and it wasn't raining. That's one of the things I loved about the first one. It's always raining.
Yeah.
And you know, whatever it is, LA 2019 is as ridiculous as like 2019.
I love the fact that Zig Zig Sputnik took that whole visual identity
Yeah,
and
yeah,
used it on Love Missile. I thought that was
yeah. They wanted to be the band that played in that bar.
yeah. I think that first Zig Zig Sputnik album is actually genius. I love it.
Yeah,
I love it. Did you ever meet Tony James?
yeah, I know Tony. Yeah, I saw Neil Whitmore a couple of weeks ago. He was playing with Glenn Matlock.
Oh, was it?
Yeah.
Oh, that's yeah. I think I've heard about that.
Yeah.
He's got his own band, hasn't he? I
They were
think.
really good. They were really good.
Yeah, his guitaring was excellent in Sputnik. Okay, this is a two-parter. Okay, what's your favourite song that you've written? Okay, and what is your favourite song to listen to from any artist?
I haven't really got a favourite song that I've written. I mean, I don't.
It probably changes as well.
Yeah, it changes all the time. I can't say. I mean, obviously, like I like. There's a song called "Rip Down" and "Viva Rock" that I was really proud of. And there's another one called "Here Comes the Grump" on "Friend or Foe." I like all our singles. Stand and Deliver I still like. I did a song with Sinead called "The Wolf Is Getting Married." I really like that. Didn't get anywhere, but I thought it was a great song.
What was she like?
Great. Well, great. I mean, I loved her dearly, but she's a very, 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 very difficult person. For what reason, I don't know. She's just sort of not really like anyone else you've ever met before. I seem to know a lot of people who are not like other people. So I'm kind of used to it, but I didn't understand what she was talking about, why she acted the way she did. But if she was, she was sort of sweet. She was one of these people. It's the opposite of what she had a very. Those people who have a gruff exterior, they have an iron exterior, but deep down inside they're soft. She's the opposite. She was soft on the outside, but really hard inside.
Really? Yeah. Okay, so what about your favourite song that...
My favourite song of all time is Pajama Brahma by Roxy Music.
Okay. I think I've got Roxy Music's greatest hits, and I love it. And I tell you why I love it. It's because when I got my first flat, my first apartment, I played it while I was painting. And whenever I hear any of those songs, it takes me back to being in my early 20s painting my first house. And I absolutely love it. It's just, it's so classy music. It really is.
Yeah. Yeah, they're my favourite band. They're my favourite band. They're Adam's favourite band as well.
Yeah.
We never sounded like Roxy Music. I mean, there were other bands like Duran Spandau. I always thought they sounded like sort of Roxy Light, Roxy 2.0. We never did. We never ever sounded like Roxy Music. We wanted to, but we didn't really. We were just different. But we took a lot of their. They were the biggest inspiration. It's the Roxy, the biggest inspiration on my musical life, really.
Yeah. Okay, this is a weird question. What's your favourite food?
I think Indonesian.
Okay.
There's not a lot of Indonesian restaurants in England, but I mean, there's a few in London, but there's loads in Amsterdam.
Is that kind of like a fusion of Indian and Chinese? Is it?
Sort of, but it's not really a fusion because they are their own nation.
No, but what I'm saying is it's got like bean sprouts and
Yeah. It is in that area of Chinese and Indian. Yeah, it is, but it's also something else. But that is just like because it is kind of it is that's how you order things, and it's like it comes with rice, and they have a lot of similar dishes, but it is something. It's something else. It's its own thing, really.
Okay. So any hobbies or unusual interests that people may not be aware about? Sorry if it's a weird question, but
No, honestly, I don't really have any hobbies or unusual interests. All my interests are sort of kind of this room, and just music and fashion and books and cinema, and there's nothing weird. I mean, I don't collect sort of, 1930s surgical implements or anything like that. And I have no strange interests on the internet. I don't have any. My internet search history is fairly kind of vanilla. I'm not really frightened of anybody like finding out what I've been looking at. I don't look at anything particularly interesting. It's always kind of like vintage guitars, vintage clothes, old records, vintage recording techniques. It's all very bad. It's not the sort of thing. It's not something you could talk about on a first date. It's all very bloke.
no.
I don't like sport. I hate sport. So I don't.
Yeah, me too. Me too. I hate football.
I hate it. I really hate it. Yeah.
I don't watch any sport. I did watch the box. No, I didn't watch the boxing. I'm interested in the boxing, but I didn't watch it. Okay, so that's the quickfire round gone. So you've moved from London. I think were you born in Camden? Were you a Camden boy?
Camden, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
I was actually born in Highgate. In a hospital that isn't there anymore.
Okay. And you're no longer a London lad. So
I moved to Derbyshire. I moved to the country, which is something I never wanted to do, and it just coincided with a kind of a stressful period of my life, and it was like Adam's breakdown and everything sort of just falling apart. And I thought, I can't remember what it was. This was 10 years ago, so I was 55, and it all coincided with I met this lady from Derbyshire, and she had 4 children and couldn't move and couldn't come to London. But even then, I didn't really want to move. And then I was just offered an offer I couldn't refuse on my property. Basically, my upstairs neighbour, I lived on the 6th floor and he lived on the roof. He had still got it. He had the penthouse on the roof. I lived in Montague Square, which is really behind Selfridges, right in the centre. My postcode was W1A, which was the postcode the postcode I've always wanted. W1A is a pretty flash postcode, but I just saw him in the lift. He said, "Do you want to sell your flat?" And I said, "Well, no, not really. I don't want to move." And then he just made me an offer I couldn't refuse. He said, "Like, I'm going to offer you X amount, which is more than it's worth on the open market. You won't have to put it on the market. You won't have to go through an estate agents. But if you want to do it quick, because I won't have the money for long." So I still didn't want to move, and then I sort of just looked around and I thought, I really don't want to move back to London. But we found this house that I'm sitting in, and it's a very big house. It's a 6-bedroomed house, but then again, there were 6 people living here before. There's only 2 now.
Well, they've all fed the nest, have they?
Well, I mean, we split up.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh,
we split up about 5 years ago, and it was. I mean, it did contribute to my kind of I was desperately unhappy. Leaving London, leaving the life, leaving my friends, leaving the life I knew, which I didn't think was very unusual. I thought I just live an ordinary life, but it's not. It's not. It wasn't ordinary at all. I didn't know that. And sort of moving here, and I always thought, well, I'll stay here for a couple of years and then move back into London. But that's just not possible with prices as they are.
Well, they say.
I mean, it's like I've got a 6-bedroomed house, and I'd have to sell it move back to Central in a 1-bedroom flat. I mean, I just can't do it.
Yeah. Well, I'm in Surrey, and they say I'd love to move down to the coast because I love the seaside. And so many people have said to me, if you move out of Surrey, you'll never move back.
That's exactly.
You'll never be able to go back.
I knew that. I knew that as soon as I sold the flat, but I was just greedy and wanted to have lots of money in the bank, more money in the bank, and then, you know, kind of, and I was in love, and I just shouldn't have fucking done it. And I've been miserable ever since. You know, it's all very nice to have lots of money in the bank, but what do I spend it on? I don't go anywhere.
What's Derbyshire like? I don't think I've ever been.
Really fucking boring. Really fucking boring.
Oh, okay. Are you in the countryside or in the centre? Are you in the countryside or in the town?
I'm in the countryside.
Okay.
It's just rural. Just rural.
And you don't like it?
The other thing that really pisses me off now is like I have to have a car, and I've never wanted a car. And I found myself suddenly saddled with 4 daughters who all needed cars. I just can't get around. I'm not going on a fucking bus. Fuck off.
There's nothing worse than being a tax. I got a daughter. I got a teenage daughter, well, 18-year-old daughter, and I just dread the phone call. Can you pick me up?
Yeah,
can you pick me up?
I didn't buy them cars for them. I found it. I bought it because my girlfriend, their mum, all she did was drive them around, pick them up from school, then pick them up from work and take them to another place. So all she did all day long. I thought, this is ridiculous. You're going to have a breakdown.
Yeah.
I didn't take them anywhere because I can barely drive. I've got a really big Mercedes, and it's complete. I thought if I get a Merc and I just crash into things, it won't matter. It's really fucking flimsy. The wings keep falling off. Yeah, really pissed off. And I never needed a car in London. You can't have a car in London, and I completely begrudge the MOT and the insurance.
Well, I can't. My car doesn't have that thing that allows you to get into London, so I can't even go. I can't even go into Kingston in Surrey because my car's not ULEZ compliant.
No, my car is ULEZ compliant. You still have to pay congestion charge, don't you?
Yeah. Well, this has been an interesting discussion. Oh, let's talk about that print. So I saw on Facebook that there's a print of you. I don't know if they've all gone. It was only 100, I think. But how did that come about?
Yeah. Yeah, the bloke who did it, he just sent me a message, and I just looked at his stuff, and I thought it was really great. I think his best one actually is the picture of Holly Johnson.
Yeah,
I thought it was amazing what he was doing, and he said, "Do you want to do? I can get a print or get a picture of your, Shutterstock, so that the photographer is paid." And vlogs and prints, and we've done really well with them.
And it comes with handwritten lyrics.
Yeah.
Well.
I signed them all, which was like kind of took me back to the day of days when I had to sit there and sign. I had to sit there and sign thousands of albums, like 500 albums. It takes all fucking day.
Yeah, I mean, do you? I mean, you must look back at that whole period and just. I mean, it was an amazing. I mean, obviously, luck plays a part, but obviously, the talent. I mean, did you always know you were going to make it, or you didn't?
I don't think anyone does. No one thinks they're going to make it. What does making it mean? I don't know what making it means. Because you've got to keep going. You can't just like that. Right, I've done Top of the Pops now. That's it. I'll retire. Well, I'm 21. I haven't got any money yet.
Yeah. I saw a really good podcast where they were talking about what is success, and there's a lot of people.
What is it?
This is what you said about you made it, and I didn't mean it like that, but basically, you never get to a point where you have actually made it, because if you get to that point, then your life's over.
Yeah.
You've got to basically be looking for the next thing, and when you look back, you'll find out that the journey was actually that was the success.
That was the whole point of it. It's the journey. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I never in my life wanted to have retire to the country, to a big house in the country, which is sort of what I've done inadvertently. It's not ever what I wanted to do.
Mm.
And it's a source of much frustration for me every day.
Well, I hope the neighbours aren't watching this.
I don't have any neighbours. We live in well, I had two neighbours. We live in this sort of gated community. There's only two houses in this. I don't live on a street. It's a little alcove, little gated alcove. We have to press the numbers and get in.
Well, look, this has been an interesting chat. I've really enjoyed it. Is there anything you want to say that I haven't included?
Buy my print, I suppose. Buy Abe's print.
Yeah, I'll put a link in the description for the print. I doubt there's many left, if I'm honest. But have you got any plans of stuff coming up that people want to look out for?
I'm not doing any music at the moment because there's nothing. I don't like working on my own. I think it's really kind of like the great thing about being a musician is the interaction with other people. And if you don't have it, I mean, I know there's lots of people who work on their own and do everything on their own and they do it at home, but that doesn't sound to me like very much fun.
Mm.
It's the interaction with other people that I like.
Yeah.
And I want to do something new. I don't really want to. If there were to be any sort of reunion with me and Adam, it's like, I don't know if I'd want to go back on the road. I mean, I wouldn't do it unless we were doing a couple of new songs. You know?
Yeah.
I don't want to keep playing fucking amp music for the rest of my. I don't mind playing it, but if that's all my life is, it's like, no, thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, you've got to have some new material to
you've got
excite yourself.
Yeah. Otherwise, I don't know. It's like kind of. It becomes. I'd become really depressed if I had to do that. I mean, I know a lot of my friends are out on the road, and it's like, and they. I mean, I don't desperately like playing live. They all do. So, but I don't want to get back on the bus, and it's like, I've done all that.
So maybe there's something that will happen, a studio thing that you could do in the future, and I don't know.
Well, I hope so. I mean, if I don't make much money, I'm not looking to sort of conquer the charts, because the charts aren't there anymore. And I don't think anyone ever does, but no one conquers charts anymore. There isn't the same sort of like you said with us and a lot of bands, there's a sort of, there was like a kind of, it all sort of explodes, doesn't it? And it's like everyone knows who you are, and everyone. Mm-hmm. It just doesn't happen anymore.
Yeah. Well, look, I want to thank you for being a part of my childhood, because, it's great memories for me, and I still enjoy the stuff, and I will be checking the. Oh, can you hang on 1 second? Sorry about that. Oh, that's ridiculous.
Right.
Bad timing. Right. Okay. Well, sorry about that. Thank you so much for the interview, Marco. It's been really good. Right. And I will put links in the description so people can see about the print and also about some other episodes.
Yeah.
And
who else are you going to be speaking to? Anyone interesting?
Any other interviews? Not really. I don't think so. There's a guy that.
How do you get hold of people? Do you just send them a message?
Yeah, I mean, the interviews I've done, if you look back, I used to be a DJ on the radio, and I reached out to artists. So I interviewed Vince Clarke and Jean-Michel Jarre, Melly Mel, and it was just from me just reaching out to people. But
Did you say Jean-Michel Jarre?
yeah,
What was that like?
really good, really nice guy, really nice guy. I basically went to the gig and saw him outside the venue and just went up and said, "I'd love to do an interview with you," and he said, "Yeah, come on."
Did you still do those massive events?
I don't think they're as big, but he's still, you know, he was at the Brighton Centre, and
Right.
yeah, it was excellent. It was excellent. Really nice guy, and Melly Mel was a really nice guy, and Vince Clarke was a really nice guy as well. So yeah, I'd like to do more interviews, but you know, most of the channel is looking at either record fairs or music and stuff, and when interviews come along, I'll definitely do them. But anyway, this has been one of my favourites. I've really enjoyed talking to you. Yeah, please like and share the show and comment, and we'll catch you next time.
I can see you've got the same adult collection that I have, the same sorts of grown-up.
Yeah, basically I've got this. Whenever I see a toy robot, I buy it. And I've got a collection of toy robots now, and all sorts of stuff. I like collecting things. I like physical things.
Yeah, I do, but I just haven't got enough room for everything.
Yeah, I know. I need another house to have my my collection of stuff. Sorry about the bloody parcel delivery halfway through.
That's right. That's one of the good things about these sort of podcast interviews. It's like that Joe Rogan thing. So I don't listen to everything he does, but the idea of being able to speak to someone for 2 hours, you know, sometimes it's interesting. Sometimes you just get fed up with it. But I mean, interviews used to be 5-10 minutes, 8 minutes or something. You can't really get any information over in that time.